Alright, Shalom. Before I begin this video, all praise, honor, and glory goes into Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, GMS, who rule well and teach well, as well as the sincere salutations to the elder bishops, along with you brothers laboring, all throughout the four winds of the earth. Yahweh Shem, Yahweh Bashem, Rakak Wadash, Barak Thumb, to you brothers. And the title of this video, through the Spirit, is Rome 2.0 will be destroyed. Right, Babylon the Great. So this is just and recently I've been seeing some of this individual's videos coming up. Just a quick, brief showing of the different stages of the Roman Empire. And there's another level to Rome, because we in Rome 2.0. All right, we in the time of the beast ruling. Okay, and NATO and the EU, okay, is Rome. It's Rome all over again. It's Rome 2.0. So I'm gonna start off with this precept and then play the video. Revelation 13:3. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. Yeah, so right now, this current system ran by NATO and the EU, that's Rome all over again. It says, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against Yahweh Shem, Yahweh Shai, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. Yeah, so this current system is against the words of the Heavenly Father and his men. All right, this society is hey, the scriptures say, never trust thine enemy. This nigga is an adversary. Right, and that dragon is Esau, Edom. Ultimately, and see, these elite bankers, they're back again too. They were elite, going all the way back to the time of the Romans. Our Lord was on the scene during the height of the Roman Empire. And that's the spirit, because right here is basically speaking on that. Revelation 13:7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And that's just on a physical level in certain aspects. Like certain brothers are gonna, be beheaded for the truth. Some brothers are gonna, be in concentration camps. Some, it's going to seem like, damn, everything is getting tore apart, yet ultimately the Lord is going to save his elect, right? That's the main thing. It says, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So if you're not of the elect, you're going to worship this beast system, which includes the Siha. All right, and it eventually goes into that, but I'm going to play this.
The Roman Kingdom era, also known as the Regal period, is the earliest phase in Roman history, traditionally dated from 753 BC to 509 BC. According to Roman legend, the city of Rome was founded in 753 BC by Romulus, its first king and namesake. This semi-mythical beginning is deeply intertwined in Roman identity, with tales of Romulus and his twin brother Remus, who was apparently raised by a she-wolf, serving as symbols of Rome's resilience. During this era, Rome transitioned from an area made up of small communities into an organized urban settlement, laying the groundwork for its rise into a major Mediterranean power. The Roman kingdom was ruled by a succession of 7 kings, each contributing uniquely to Rome's early development. Romulus, the first king, is credited with establishing many of Rome's foundational institutions, including its military structure in the Roman Senate, which originally served as an advisory council to the king. The second king, Numa Pompilius, was known for his focus on religion and law, organizing Rome's priesthoods and religious calendar. He is often seen as the architect of Roman spiritual life, helping to balance the warrior ethos with divine order.
Shop your new mattress your way at Ashley. Browse our wide selection online from the
The third king, Tullus Hostilius, Rome adopted a more aggressive military position. He led the conquest of Alba Longa, an older Latin city, and integrated its population into Roman society, helping expand Rome's influence in Latium. The fourth king, Ancus Marcius, continued this expansion and is credited with building the first bridge across the Tiber River and founding the port of Ostia, which became vital for Rome's trade and naval power. The fifth king, Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, of Etruscan origin, introduced several Etruscan cultural influences into Roman society. He expanded the Senate and began significant public works, such as the Cloaca Maxima, which was a large sewer system. The sixth king, Servius Tullius, is remembered for creating Rome's first census, which classified citizens based on wealth and military capacity. This led to the establishment of the Centuriate Assembly, an early form of representative government based on class divisions. The final king, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, ruled as a tyrant and was widely despised for his cruelty and disregard for Roman traditions. His reign came to a dramatic end after the scandal involving his son, Sextus Tarquinius, and the noble woman Lucretia, in which he was accused of forcing himself onto her, and she ended her life as a result. This triggered widespread outrage and led to an uprising led by Lucius Junius Brutus. In 509 BC, the monarchy was abolished, and the Roman Republic was established in its place. The Romans vowed never to be ruled by kings again, and republican ideals of shared power and checks on authority began to dominate Roman political thought. The Roman Kingdom era saw the development of essential institutions like the Senate, religious customs, social hierarchies, military traditions, and early urban infrastructure. Although much of what we know from this period comes from later historians, such as Livy and Plutarch, and also contains elements of myth, this era set the cultural and political groundwork for the Roman Republic. The Roman Republic era began in 509 BC, following the overthrow of the Roman monarchy, resulting in a new political system centered on representative institutions, shared power, and deep suspicion of centralized authority. Instead of kings, Rome was now led by annually elected magistrates, most notably 2 consuls, and guided by a powerful senate. This new republican model laid the groundwork for Roman expansion, governance, and military strategy for nearly 5 centuries, shaping the core values and identity of Rome. The early republic faced significant challenges from both internal class struggles and external threats. Domestically, the struggle between the patricians, which were the aristocratic elite, and the plebeians, who were the common citizens, defined the early political landscape. This conflict, known as the Conflict of the Orders, lasted for over 2 centuries and gradually resulted in greater political inclusion for the plebeians. Major milestones included the creation of the office of Tribune of the Plebs in 494 BC, which granted plebeians political representation and veto power, and the eventual passage of the Lex Hortensia in 287 BC, which made plebeian decisions binding on all Romans. These reforms helped establish the Republic as a mixed constitution, balancing aristocracy and democracy. Externally, the Roman Republic expanded through a series of wars and military campaigns. One of the most critical early conflicts was the series of wars against neighboring Latin and Etruscan communities, which allowed Rome to dominate central Italy. By the 3rd century BC, Rome had extended its influence across the Italian peninsula. This set the stage for its most defining conflicts, the Punic Wars. The First Punic War from 264 to 241 BC against Carthage was Rome's first major overseas war, resulting in the acquisition of Sicily. The Second Punic War from 218 to 201 BC was especially pivotal as the Carthaginian general Hannibal invaded Italy and won several major battles, including the devastating Roman defeat at Cannae. However, under the leadership of Publius Cornelius Scipio, Rome defeated Hannibal at the Battle of Zama in 202 BC, securing dominance in the western Mediterranean. The Third Punic War from 149 to 146 BC ended with the complete destruction of Carthage, establishing Rome as the dominant power in the Mediterranean world. During the Republic, Rome also fought major wars in the eastern Mediterranean, including against Macedonia and the Seleucid Empire. These wars brought Greece, parts of Asia Minor, and later Egypt into Rome's sphere of influence. With each conquest, Rome accumulated vast wealth, slaves, and territory, but also increasing instability. The late Republic was defined by growing economic inequality, military loyalty to generals over the state, and violent political rivalries.
The best companion for your fantasy team is Fantasy View. Track stats while you watch live.
Attempts by figures such as the Gracchi brothers in the 2nd century BC, who tried to redistribute land to the poor, were met with resistance and led to political assassinations. The late Republic was defined by a series of civil wars and the rise of powerful military leaders. Marius and Sulla set the precedent for using the army to seize power, leading to Sulla's dictatorship in the early 1st century BC. Later, the First Triumvirate formed in 60 BC, which was an informal alliance between Julius Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus. Julius Caesar's military conquest, especially in Gaul, made him immensely popular and powerful. His crossing of the Rubicon River in 49 BC sparked a civil war against Pompey in the Senate, which Caesar ultimately won. In 44 BC, however, Caesar was assassinated by senators fearful of his growing power and ambitions of monarchy. The final phase of the Republic saw further chaos, as Caesar's heir Octavian, later known as Augustus, Mark Antony, and Lepidus, formed the Second Triumvirate. The alliance soon fractured, leading to the decisive Battle of Actium in 31 BC, where Octavian defeated Antony and Cleopatra. In 27 BC, Octavian was granted the title Augustus by the Senate, resulting in the end of the Roman Republic and the beginning of the Roman Empire. The early Roman Empire, often referred to as the Principe era, began in 27 BC with the rise of Augustus and lasted until approximately 235 AD. This era was defined by the transition of Rome from a republic to an empire under the control of a single ruler, while still maintaining the facade of republican governance. The term Principate derives from the title Princeps, meaning first citizen, which Augustus used to preserve the illusion of republican values. Augustus reformed the
Which, we still say the word citizens. All the different points that are being brought up, these same things are happening today.
military by creating a standing army loyal to the emperor, expanded Rome's borders, and initiated large-scale building projects throughout the empire. He also introduced moral legislation and promoted traditional Roman values. This era witnessed substantial territorial expansion. Under emperors such as Tiberius, Claudius, and Trajan, the empire reached its greatest extent. Claudius successfully invaded Britain in 43, integrating it into the empire. Trajan launched campaigns against modern-day Romania, Mesopotamia, and Arabia,
which we know that, America basically came out of Great Britain.
pushing the empire's frontiers to their furthest limits by 117. These conquests brought wealth and new people into the Roman Empire, strengthening the economy and culture. Domestically, the empire experienced long periods of peace and prosperity, especially during the Pax Romana, a roughly 200-year span of relative stability that began with Augustus. Roman cities thrived, connected by a vast network of roads and aqueducts that facilitated trade and communication. The economy flourished due to this infrastructure, the use of standardized currency, and the efficient collection of taxes. Roman engineering achievements, such as the construction of the Colosseum, aqueducts like the Aqua Claudia, and roads such as the Via Appia, symbolize the empire's power and innovation. One of the most stable and admired periods within this era was the reign of the five good emperors, including Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius from 96 to 180. These emperors were known for their effective governance, military competence, and commitment to public welfare. Hadrian, for example, consolidated and secured the empire's borders, famously building Hadrian's Wall in Britain to defend the northern limit of Roman territory. Antoninus Pius presided over one of the most peaceful reigns in Roman history. Marcus Aurelius, a philosopher king, faced renewed pressure from Germanic tribes, but is remembered for his stoic writings and dedication to duty. Despite these successes, the seeds of future instability were sown during this period. The increasing importance of the military in political matters meant that emperors increasingly needed the army's support to rule. Additionally, the succession process often lacked clarity, leading to periodic conflicts. The death of Marcus Aurelius in 180 resulted in the end of the high point of the Principate, and his son, Commodus, proved to be a disastrous and erratic ruler, signaling the beginning of a slow decline. The Severan dynasty, which came to power in 193 following a brief civil war, further militarized the empire and centralized authority. The increased use of the military to enforce political power and the burden of maintaining a vast empire strained Rome's economy and institutions. This era came to an end in 235 with the assassination of Emperor Alexander Severus, which resulted in the beginning of the crisis of the 3rd century. The crisis of the 3rd century was a chaotic and nearly catastrophic period in Roman history, lasting from 235 to 284. After the Severan dynasty came to an end, following Emperor Alexander Severus's assassination by his own troops, a period of military then quickly being assassinated took place. Between 235 and 284, over 25 emperors claimed the throne, with many ruling for very brief periods. The constant power struggles, civil wars, and assassinations deeply destabilized the empire and drained its resources. At the same time, the Roman Empire faced severe threats along its borders. In the east, the Sassanid Persian Empire emerged as a powerful opponent, defeating Roman armies and capturing key cities. In 260, the Sassanids captured Emperor Valerian in battle, the only time a Roman emperor was taken prisoner by a foreign power. This humiliating event shocked the empire and weakened Roman morale. In the west and north, Germanic tribes such as the Alemanni, Franks, and Goths launched repeated raids across the Rhine and Danube frontiers, pillaging Roman towns and pushing deep into imperial territory. The Roman military was forced to divide its attention across multiple fronts, often lacking the manpower and leadership to properly respond. Amid the chaos, the empire temporarily fractured into 3 competing states. In 260, the Gallic Empire broke away in the west and parts of Spain. In the east, the city of Palmyra, under the leadership of Queen Zenobia, declared independence and created the Palmyrene Empire, controlling Egypt, Syria, and parts of Asia Minor. These breakaway empires operated independently for years, collecting taxes, raising armies, and issuing their own currency, while the Central Roman Authority in Italy struggled to maintain control. Constant warfare and invasions disrupted agriculture and trade, leading to food shortages and declining urban populations. A devastating plague further reduced the population and workforce, worsening the empire's economic troubles. Despite the turmoil, some capable leaders emerged. One of the most important was Emperor Aurelian, who ruled from 270 to 275. Aurelian is credited with reuniting the empire by defeating both the Gallic and Palmyrene separatist states. He also fortified Rome with new walls, reorganized the military, and attempted to stabilize the currency. Though assassinated before completing his reforms, Aurelian's efforts resulted in a turning point in restoring imperial strength. The crisis of the 3rd century came to an end in 284 with the ascension of Diocletian. Recognizing that the old system was no longer viable, Diocletian instituted fundamental changes that transformed the empire into what historians call the Dominate. The crisis of the 3rd century was one of the most dangerous moments in Roman history. It exposed deep flaws in the imperial system and nearly led to the collapse of the empire, but it also forced Rome to evolve. While the crisis resulted in the end of the old Roman world, it also brought in the emergence of a new and even stronger era of the Roman Empire. The late Roman Empire, often referred to as the Dominate era, began in 284 with the rise of Emperor Diocletian and lasted until 395. Unlike the earlier Principate, which had maintained the illusion of republican traditions, the Dominate was overtly autocratic. Emperors no longer styled themselves as first citizens, but instead embraced titles and customs that emphasized their supreme authority and divine status. Diocletian recognized that the empire was too large and complex to govern efficiently from a single center, which led him to introduce the Tetrarchy, a new form of rule that divided the empire into 4 regions, each ruled by either an Augustus, meaning a senior emperor, or a Caesar, meaning a junior emperor. He himself ruled as a senior Augustus in the east. This division was designed to improve administrative efficiency, ensure
And as you can see, if you look real close, the noses have been mysteriously chipped off.
smoother succession, and allow for rapid military responses across the empire. Diocletian also enacted wide-reaching reforms. He expanded the imperial bureaucracy, separating
Because, popular to contrary belief, you had you had Israelites in the Roman Empire, right? They teach you in school, but it was nothing but white. No, you obviously had Israelites back then,
civil and military authority to reduce the risk of rebellion. He introduced a new tax system based on land and population, designed to bring stability to imperial finances. He also initiated a currency reform to address decades of inflation. While these reforms improved state control, they placed heavy burdens on the population. In religious matters, Diocletian is infamous for launching the last and most severe persecution of Christians. Beginning in 303, the Great Persecution sought to destroy Christian scriptures, close churches, and force believers to renounce their faith. Thousands were killed, and Christianity was pushed underground. However, this persecution ultimately failed and even backfired, strengthening Christian identity and resistance. After Diocletian's resignation in 305, the Tetrarchic system quickly broke down into civil war. Among the many contenders for power, Constantine emerged victorious after a series of battles, including the decisive Battle of the Milvian Bridge in 312, where he claimed divine favor following a vision of the Christian cross. Once in power, Constantine enacted transformative policies that changed the course of Roman and European history. Constantine was very supportive of Christianity, and in 313, he issued the Edict of Milan alongside his co-emperor Licinius, granting religious tolerance throughout the empire. He later became the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity, actively supporting the church with imperial patronage and integrating Christian structures into state institutions. Under Constantine, Christianity began its evolution from a persecuted sect to the empire's dominant religion. Another major achievement of Constantine was the founding of Constantinople in 330 on the site of the ancient city of Byzantium. Built as a new Rome, the city became the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire and a vital center of politics, culture, and Christianity for over 1,000 years. The final major figure of the Dominate era was Theodosius I, who ruled from 379 to 395. He is most notable for making Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire through the Edict of Thessalonica in 380, which declared Nicene Christianity as the only legitimate imperial faith. Theodosius also suppressed pagan rituals and closed many temples, further cementing the transformation of the Roman world from pagan to Christian. This era formally ended in 395, when Theodosius I died and permanently divided the empire between his two sons, Arcadius in the east and Honorius in the west. This resulted in the final administrative split of the empire, setting the stage for the eventual fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476. The Western Roman Empire lasted from 395 to 476 and represented the final stage of the Roman state in the western half of the empire. This period began after Theodosius I's son, Honorius, became the ruler of the Western Empire. The division resulted in the beginning of increasing isolation, decline, and instability in the western half, as it faced external invasions, economic collapse, internal decay, and weakened political leadership. The early years of the Western Roman Empire were troubled by waves of invasion from Germanic tribes and internal power struggles. In 406, a coalition of Vandals, Alans, and Suebi crossed the frozen Rhine River and invaded Gaul, setting off a chain of events that devastated devastated the western provinces. By 410, Rome itself was sacked by the Visigoths under King Alaric, an event that shocked the Roman world and symbolized the empire's vulnerability. Though Rome retained part of the empire afterward, the sack dealt a severe psychological blow to Roman authority. Throughout the 5th century, the Western Empire saw its provinces fall one by one to invading or migrating tribes. Britain was advantaged around 410, as Roman forces were withdrawn to defend Italy. In 439, the Vandals captured Carthage in North Africa, depriving the empire of one of its wealthiest provinces and a major source of grain. Meanwhile, in Gaul and Hispania, the Visigoths and Franks steadily carved out independent kingdoms. One of the most influential figures during this era was Flavius Aetius, a Roman general who wielded considerable power as the empire's chief military commander. Aetius is best known for leading the Roman forces against Attila the Hun at the Battle of the Catalaunian Plains in 451. This battle, fought in Gaul with the aid of Visigoth allies, halted Attila's advance into Western Europe and was one of the last major military victories of the Western Roman Empire. However, Aetius was assassinated in 454 by Emperor Valentinian III, which destabilized the already fragile political order and led to further military decline. The economic situation during this period also deteriorated significantly. The loss of key provinces reduced tax revenues, while the cost of defense continued to rise. The end of the Western Roman Empire came in 476, when the Germanic chieftain Odoacer overthrew the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus. Despite its collapse, the Western Roman Empire left behind a major legacy. The Latin language, Roman law, Christianity, and Roman administrative structures continue to influence the kingdoms that emerged in its place. Meanwhile, the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire, would survive for nearly 1,000 more years, preserving and transforming the Roman legacy. The Byzantine Empire, also known as the Eastern Roman Empire, began in 395 after Theodosius I's son, Arcadius, became the ruler of the Eastern Empire. The Byzantines viewed themselves as Romans, but their state became fundamentally different in culture, religion, and political structure from the ancient Roman Empire. One of the most pivotal rulers of the early Byzantine period was Emperor Justinian I, who reigned from 527 to 565. Justinian launched massive military campaigns to reclaim lost Western Roman territories, temporarily regaining North Africa, Italy, and parts of Spain under his general Belisarius. While these conquests strained imperial resources and were largely lost within a few generations, they demonstrated the empire's continued strength and aspirations. Equally important was Justinian's codification of Roman law, which became the foundation for legal systems in much of Europe for centuries. The Byzantine Empire faced constant threats from outside powers, adapting to survive over centuries. In the 7th century, the empire lost large portions of its territory, including Egypt, Syria, and the Levant, to the rapidly expanding Islamic caliphates. These losses dealt a significant blow to Byzantine power, wealth, and influence. In response, the empire restructured itself, both administratively and militarily. This helped the empire survive through centuries of continuous pressures from Arab, Slavic, and Turkic enemies. The Byzantines also played a central role in shaping medieval Christianity. Following theological debates, the empire developed distinct Eastern Orthodox doctrines that eventually clashed with those of the Roman Catholic Church. The growing religious and cultural divide between East and West culminated in the Great Schism of 1054, when the Pope in Rome and the Patriarch of Constantinople formally excommunicated each other. This split permanently divided Christianity into Western Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy. In the 9th and 10th centuries, the Byzantine Empire experienced a revival under the Macedonian dynasty, with emperors such as Basil II expanding imperial borders and strengthening central authority. Basil II in particular defeated the Bulgarian Empire and brought the Balkans firmly under Byzantine control. This era also saw the flourishing of Byzantine culture, art, and learning, often referred to as the Macedonian Renaissance. Despite these successes, the empire began a long decline starting in the 11th century. The defeat at the Battle of Manzikert in 1071 by the Seljuk Turks resulted in the loss of much of Anatolia, which was formerly the empire's heartland. In desperation, Emperor Alexios I Komnenos appealed to the West for aid, helping trigger the First Crusade. Although the Crusades temporarily brought some relief, they also introduced new dangers. In 1204, during the Fourth Crusade, Western Crusades sacked Constantinople, developing the city and establishing the short-lived Latin Empire. The Byzantines retreated to exile in places like Nicaea until they recaptured Constantinople in 1261 under Michael VIII Palaiologos. Though the empire never fully recovered, the final 2 centuries of the Byzantine Empire were defined by territorial shrinkage, internal decay, and constant threats from the rising Ottoman Turks. By the 15th century, Constantinople was surrounded, with only a fragment of its former empire remaining. In 1453, Sultan Mehmed II led a massive Ottoman army against Constantinople. After a prolonged siege, the city fell on May 29, 1453. The death of Emperor Constantine XI and the capture of Constantinople resulted in the end of the Byzantine Empire. Despite its fall, the Roman Empire left behind a major legacy. It shaped the foundations of Western civilization through its innovations in law, government, engineering, architecture, and language. Even long after its fall, the idea of Rome continues to echo throughout history. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you learned
all the way till today, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and read this precept, and I'm gonna end the video. Jeremiah 50:12, your mother shall be sore confounded, she that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land and a desert. Yeah, because this place, right, Rome 2.0, aka Babylon the Great, is going to be fucking destroyed by thermonuclear intercontinental ballistic missiles. And best believe over there in Britain, they finna be witnessing that. They gonna say, damn. Jeremiah 50:13, it says, because of the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited yet, because it's gonna be completely destroyed, right? But it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon, aka America, shall be astonished and hiss at her plagues. Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about. Yes, all these other nations that are going to completely surround Babylon the Great, right? All ye that bend the bow, shoot at her, America, spare no arrows, right? Those are the missiles, for she hath sinned against the Lord, right? By keeping the Israelites captive, putting hell on them in the worst way, for these different philosophies, these different enchantments, right? At the alphabet community, right? Christianity. Jeremiah 50:15, shout against her round about. Yeah, so cussing you out. All these nations, they tired of your shit. She has given her hand. Yeah, why? Through pride. So now you just boast, right? And these elite, so-called elite, these international bankers, they pride themselves on bragging. Right? She hath given her hand, her foundations are fallen, her walls are thrown down, for it is the vengeance of the Lord. Take vengeance upon her, as she hath done unto her. Cut off the sower from Babylon, and him that handleth the sickle in the time of harvest. For fear of the oppressing sword, they shall turn every one to his people, and they shall flee every one to his own land. Things continuing to get worse and worse, you know. These heathens said they are understanding, all right, I gotta hightail it back to where I'm from. That's your best bet. Which ultimately you're going into captivity anyways. Yet, you know, if you're a heathen and you here in Babylon the Great, you're going to be destroyed by the missiles because you're not getting saved. So if you hear you getting burnt up, point blank, now you're gonna have these elite. They gonna have these bunkers, you know, wherever they get. Yeah, they gonna have all sorts of different places that they gonna have them bunkers, and they gonna think, okay, we good, we got away, and then what? Us in them perfect bodies, we gonna, oh man, we gonna hunt them out. They gonna be the first batch of slaves. Psalms 149, and get straight to the point. Verse 6, let the high praises of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua be in their mouth and a two-edged sword in their hand. All right, the Israelites, to execute vengeance upon the heathen, all right, you other nations, and punishments upon the people, to bind their kings with chains, right? Your king, and that's all of y'all's kings and nobles, not just Esau, but you other nations as well, because for whatever reason, the other nations been trying to hide behind Esau. But Esau going into captivity, a worse captivity than the heathen, but the heathen are still going into captivity. All right. So that this Psalms 149 and verse 8, that includes the other nations too. You know, Moab, all the high, dignified, you know, they nose up in the air, proud. Moab, Ammon, y'all gonna have to serve us too. All to see the pride of the other nations is gonna cease to exist when Israel, you know, is in his and her perfection. See, because our women are gonna be perfect as well. You know, and that don't mean that they're gonna be doing the same things that we do. Like she just gonna be able to do whatever the hell she wants to. You know, she's gonna be in order. Yeah, she's gonna be perfect. She's gonna have, right, perfect, you know, everything perfect. Never, you know, die. Be just in order forever. We'll all be in order through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, all the Israelites, man. And the elect of the nation of Israel, Lord's will, we be of that number, is going to be the governing body of the kingdom of heaven. Right? See, because E tried to, you know, make a senate, make a group of, see, always trying to copy Jake. See, because ultimately, in the kingdom of heaven, different decisions that are going to, you know, be made, it's going to be all through the spirit, and it's going to be perfect. Right? But you're going to have the elect that are basically spearheading, you know, what's going on. See, because it's going to be forever, man. Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Psalms 149 and verse 8. To bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron, to execute upon them the judgment written. Yeah, all the precepts. All the precepts, every single prophecy. Right? This honor have all his saints. Yeah, so the children of Israel, praise ye the Lord, right? And in the kingdom, even the 2/3, right, they're gonna be perfect because they're gonna be born through the loins of the elect. They just gonna be the 2/3. That's gonna be the only difference. You're gonna have the elect, you're gonna have the 144,000 and the 1/3, and then you're gonna have the 2/3. Right? The 2/3 are gonna live forever. They're gonna be perfect, right? It's just that they're not gonna be, you know, the 144,000 and the 1/3. They're gonna be the ones that, hey, they had to get hit with them missiles in order to get right. You know, being born through the loins of the elect. See, we want to get it right on the first go around. We don't want to taste that second death. We want to live. We want the Lord to, man, Lord, to come beam us up. All right, and it's going to happen in our lifetime. Lord's will, we be the elect. All right, so with that, Lord's will, you're edified. Call halal, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, GMS, who rule well and teach well, as well as the sincere salutations to the elder bishops, along with you brothers laboring through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. Abba Babal and Kwam Yashala. Right, we in that last leg of the race, you know, this right, NATO, the EU, and see, NATO, EU, you're gonna have American troops. They're gonna be everybody gonna be trying to go against the Lord, the Lord's angels, and fail miserably, right? This is the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 7. I'll just read this real quick. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. Yeah, Esau Edom. And the dragon fought and his angels, right? Space Force, these different. And they gonna have all sorts of, Esau gonna have all sorts of tricks up his sleeve, but it's not gonna work. All right, it says verse 8, and prevailed not, yes, so they failed miserably. Not one of the Lord's chariots are gonna be taken out, right? It says, and prevailed not, neither was their place found anymore in heaven. Yes, so you're through. Soon the Lord gonna set up the elect of the nation of Israel, right? And just like these different kingdoms, just like you had a beginning of the kingdom, you have an end of the kingdom, and then the Lord is gonna have this kingdom to come. The kingdom of Yahweh Shem Yahushua is gonna be forever. All right, that's something we look forward to. All right, shalom.